Hey, folks, and welcome to Kelly's Chronicles, my channel where I sit down with individuals who have lived extraordinary lives hidden behind normal, everyday existences. Because here we believe that those lives are the ones that need to be the most celebrated, that are the most important. They need to be heard, and they need to be acknowledged as to not be forgotten by the passage of time. We want to welcome everybody. Hope you all had a wonderful week. I had a great week over here. We are finally signed into our lease for our tavern and restaurant. It's going to be the Gemini Tavern and Restaurant. It's going to be opened up in Gunnersville in a month. So May 1st is our launch date. We're really excited. We've already cleared the wall out for our bar, and the kitchen is looking pretty good. And I've been scrubbing walls. So the power washer has been my best friend. So my husband, myself, and my sister-in-law have been working tirelessly on this effort. So we will be opening up in a month. So that has been my week. And how has your week been, Dad? How have you been?
Oh, it's been a pretty nice week. We've had some good things going on in church. Yesterday was Palm Sunday, which in the Christian religion, that's a big deal. Not so much in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but in the Catholic Church, it's a big deal. And a lot of the Protestants, they go all out for Palm Sunday. So next Sunday is Easter. Palm Sunday is the entrance of Christ back into Jerusalem, and he's welcomed, warmly welcomed. And he came up from Bethany, where he had raised Lazarus from the dead. Bethany was like one of his main bases, and he had left Bethany and walked at about 10 miles into Jerusalem and was welcomed. He came in on a donkey. They put their clothing down in front of him and put palm leaves down in front of him, and were saying the word Hosanna, which in Arabic is save us, please save us. And yeah, it was a triumphant entry into Jerusalem, and that was what Palm Sunday was all about. In our ward building, they had a big display of Christ. They started out in his birth, and then they went through to Palm Sunday and the crucifixion, and they had these big posters and everything, and they had volunteers throughout the building guiding you into, and then they had people up bearing their testimonies. And it was very nice, very nice. Really rolled out the red carpet and got to see a bunch of my friends. So it was very nice.
Oh, that's
And
really
that was what I did last night. And then this has been very unseasonably warm weather, as I've been doing a lot of stuff outside. Doing, we got three. We now have three. We have they always say big hat, no cattle in Texas.
Oh,
They
yeah.
wear these big 10-gallon hats. They don't have it. I got a big hat and I got 3 steers.
Oh, well, look
Yeah,
at you, you rancher.
we went down to American Falls and we bought 2 white-faced Herefords and a Charolais mix. So we have 3 steers. They're about 600 pounds. They're what they call heavy calves. And we've been out trying to keep them in our pastures. And those cows are cows. They'll look around for a hole in your fence, and then they're gone. It's like a meeting of the minds. It's like the cow is trying to get out, and you're trying to keep them in. But anyway, we're going to be raising some good beef cattle, because these are definitely beef cattle. We had a couple of years ago. We had a Holstein bull and a Mexican fighting bull. It looked like a big black Angus with horns.
Yeah.
And they were nasty. They were ornery, and they didn't want to do anything that we wanted them to do. They were going to do their own, and we had to feed them every day because we went up. There was not very much browse for them. We were up in a neighbor's, up on their property, and there was no grass. So we had to hay those cows every day and water them. It was a mess. Now
Jeez.
they've got they've got they've got plenty of browse. They're on 3 different pieces of land, about 15 acres of good grass.
Well,
So we're
they're doing good then.
they'll
We just fine.
they'll fatten up. We wanna keep them till about October, and
Yeah.
in October they should be between 1,000 and 1,200 pounds. And we've already got a slaughter date. It's the 15th of October. We're going to take them down to Oxford meat processing place down there, and they're going to take care of them for us.
Oh, good. Did
Yeah,
you guys use those guys last time? I think you did, didn't you?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
so,
good. I'm glad you're using the same local guys down there in
yeah.
Downey.
They're good people. Good people.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's good. Well,
And
listen, I'm excited that you're getting some homegrown beef. I'm gonna, probably steal a couple steaks when I come to visit.
you bet we'll have them. We'll have porterhouse or T-bones, whatever you want. Before we get started too much, I've got some pictures here
Oh, you do?
that should be put in the record. Okay.
Okay. Let's see what we got
Okay.
here.
This is my dad and me. My dad was in the Marines then. This is about 1940, about 1950. So I
Okay.
was about 3 years old, and there's dad in uniform, and that's me, and we're standing out in front of our house in Huntington Beach,
That's
and
great.
that's that one. And then here's another one. This was a birthday picture. This was, I
Look at you,
believe
you're
this was
so
my
little.
third. I think this is my third birthday picture. That
So
was me.
little.
And then I've got this one.
Oh, look at you.
This was me in my Army uniform, and this was in Army basic training.
Oh, that's
See the
great.
birth control glasses? That
Yes,
was a big deal back then.
the birth
And they're
control.
coming back. I can't believe people
Yes,
wanna wear those things.
they're very hipster now. All the cool
Yeah.
kids
But
wear the
anyway,
black rimmed
I
glasses.
thought I'd put those into the official record, and nobody could ever say that Dad wasn't in the Army. Dad was. There he is in his uniform. Woo! Anyway,
With those glasses.
yeah, and let's see, the last time we were in the Navy, and I was in Subic Bay in the Philippines, right?
Right? Yep, that
Okay,
was where we last left off was Subic Bay. You had talked about how you joined the American Legion in Subic Bay. That was
right.
where we left
And
off,
I
was
was
right there.
talking about the 13,000 limit on going into the base, off the
Yep.
base into the town. This is how the Navy ran Subic Bay.
Okay.
And they had clinics every month. They would send Navy doctors and Navy corpsmen out to Longapo, and they would set up a clinic
Okay.
in town. And they would and the hookers, and they would be examined. Now they would. I'm not sure exactly what the extent of the examination was, but they would be examined for venereal disease and other problems. Okay, and if they did have a problem, the Navy would take care of them. They would either give them antibiotics or whatever it took to get them back to being healthy. And they had little cards that they would issue these women. It was said, "I've been examined by United States Navy, and I'm clean." And yeah,
Your
it was.
card.
I mean, it was unbelievable the way the Navy treated the Filipinos. You have to understand that the Philippines was a Spanish colony.
Yeah.
Okay, that was where the Spanish. That's where Magellan went through there, and all these. The Spanish had this for probably 300 years. They were in the Philippines. Then a Spanish-American War in 1898. The Americans took possession. The Spanish government turned over the Philippines, Guam, Puerto Rico to America, and Cuba sorta. they sort of got control of Cuba, but not Cuba pretty much stayed pretty independent. But anyway, we got the
Mm,
Philippines.
okay.
And in about 1900, there was certain Filipinos that did not want to be part of any government. They wanted to be independent,
I
and these
understand
were
that.
called Muros, and they were down in southern Philippines, and they were Muslims, and they were crazy. As soon as the Americans showed up, they started a war with them,
Mm,
and they'd wrap themselves up in grapevines and attack the troops. And we had the standard issue weapon that the military had was a 38 caliber pistol, and they would shoot these Muros, these 38 calibers, and it would bounce off the vines. They wouldn't even get to their
nice.
skin. And so they said, oh, this is not working. And so they had the gunsmiths, Browning was the main one who put in uh, to the military to adopt their designs for the next generation of pistols. And
Okay.
the 1911 Colt 1911 semi-automatic pistol, a
Mm,
7-shot pistol, magazine fed, was designed by a Browning, I think Moses Browning, who incidentally was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he
story. I
invented
remember that.
the
Okay.
the 1911 45 caliber pistol, and it would go right. It blew the Muros down. They didn't have a chance,
Yeah.
and that's where the military needed and was given the 45 caliber pistol to stop these crazy Muslims from killing them. So the Philippines became our country, and they got
Territory.
their freedom in about 1947. The
Okay.
United States gave the Philippines their independence, but they kept the bases in the Philippines. They kept a huge Air Force base and a huge Navy base there. The Air Force base in Angeles City, which I cannot remember the name of, and also the Navy base in Subic.
Are those
They,
bases still there in the Philippines?
the bases, no, they had a volcano
Uh,
up in around Angeles City called Mount Pinatubo, and Mount Pinatubo blew its
that's a
top
hard one.
in about 19. I'm going to say about 1990,
Wow.
somewhere right in there. Mount Pinatubo blew its top and covered up the Air Force base with lava.
Whoa.
And so
Okay.
that was the end of that base. And then, but Subic was further south, and it
Okay.
it got a little ash, but no lava, and it
Oh
survived.
my gosh.
But as far as I know, the Air Force Base is done. What was left of it, they covered the runways and bunch of the buildings, and what was left of it, the Filipinos came in. Of course, they're all dirt poor, and they came in and they stripped those. They tore out all the plumbing,
Oh
all the
yeah.
wiring, the
Oh
bathtub, the
yeah.
sinks, everything, the toilets. They took everything and left just a shell of the building.
Hey,
And
recycle what you
just
can.
basically what the volcano didn't destroy, the Filipinos did. Well, in Subic, we pulled out of the Philippines. They had what they call a yellow revolution, where the people all wore yellow shirts and they were protesting America. And we pulled out in about the same time, that 1990s, I'm thinking, that we pulled out of Subic. Well,
Okay.
there was the mayor of of city of Olongapo was a guy named Gordon, Mayor Gordon, and I was there when his father was the mayor, back when Marcos was still a president of the Philippines, and Mayor Gordon was the mayor of Olongapo. Anyway, his son, when Americans pulled out, his son sent in armed guards into Subic Bay, and he took possession of the frickin' Navy base. And he said, if you come on this base, we'll shoot you. You're not tearing this place up like you did in Angeles City, period.
Ah,
And so he preserved the naval base, and they turned it in. They were, last time I heard, they were using the dry docks to bring in commercial vessels and do
wow.
work on them. And
Okay.
they also used some of the buildings, some of the big warehouses and stuff, and they were making armored personnel carriers for the Army, for the Philippine and American
Mm,
armies.
look at them
And
go.
they were doing well. They had some nice,
That's awesome.
well-paid job. And Filipinos had, a good place to go and work. And
Yeah,
I really respected Mayor Gordon. He was an awesome dude. And
cool.
his all of his family was they cared about the Filipino people. They didn't, like a lot
Mhm.
of
I love
these
that.
these people in these third world countries, they don't care about the people. They
Yeah,
care less.
but
It's
just
all
that.
about me. But Mayor Gordon was different. He was an awesome guy
That's
and took care of his people. Anyway, the Philippines being an American colony, uh, there was strange things going on there. There were things going on in the Philippines that they were trying to bring in the communists and
okay.
oust the government, and they
Oh
had
boy.
they there was this one story. I'm not sure if this is documented, but allegedly 30,000 Filipino communists uh, got together and were marching on Manila. They were going to take
Oh,
over the country, and the Filipino army said, "Oh no, you're not going to do that." And they went up and they met about 15 miles north of Subic Bay in the mountains, and they had this battle up there, and they basically wiped out these 30,000 communists. And if you go up there now, there's a statue. It's a statue of President Marcos, who was a president at the time. There's this giant rock that they carved out his face on to honor him and his uh, victory over and they call them, they were Hucalopolis, and they call Huks. And Hucalopolis were the Filipino communists, and we ran into them a couple of times. We had a friend of
right.
mine that was in my unit. Um, he went out to a birthday party for his girlfriend, and they were off limits areas because in the Philippines you go out into Longapo, you stayed on the main streets or one block on each side, and that was it. Everything else was off limits because of Hucalopolis, and there was a lot of crime there if you got out into the town. Anyway, this guy was at a birthday party for his girlfriend, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this bunch of men, about 10 or 12 guys showed up with automatic weapons,
Oh my gosh.
and they were not friendly. And they said, we should kill you, but we're not going to because you're United States citizens, and we don't want the United States military coming because we killed like it was about 5 or 6 of our guys over there at this birthday party. 'Cause, they also said, well, how come you're in civilian clothes? Because in the Longapo, all the people on board ships and all the Marines had to wear their uniforms off the base. When they went into town, they wore uniforms. Okay, so you could
Okay.
easily spot the Marines and the sailors. We did not wear uniforms.
Why
I
was
was in
that?
beach jumpers. We were a highly
Oh,
classified unit, and we had civilian clothes on board the ships, and when they did, I'm telling you, these sailors they were going, "Whoa, what are you guys, like CIA or something?" No, we're beach jumpers. Anyway, they were amazed that we had civilian clothes on board. So these guys at this birthday party were in civilian clothes, and these Hookalopolis, they didn't they these could have been CIA operatives or something. They didn't know who these guys were in the civilian clothes, so they did not kill them, but they were. armed to the teeth, and they were
Wow.
Filipino communists. I'm not sure why they were at this birthday party, whether they came in because we were there or whether there was something else going on, but we didn't go, "Hey, guys, how come you're here at this birthday party? What's going on?" We didn't we just said, "Whatever you want, we're out of here." Is that one song about "Give me 3 steps, mister," that country western song? "Give
Yeah.
me 3 steps, mister, give me 3 steps, and you never see me again."
Yeah.
Anyway,
Ever again.
yeah,
Out the
it
door.
was terrifying. It was terrifying. I mean, 'cause these guys, they were scarred and brutal. Philippines, they're they're like Malaysian people. They're not really Asians, but they're not Polynesians. Their skin tone is kind of tan. They don't have a lot of
Mhm.
body hair. They don't have big beards or anything like that.
Yeah.
Dark hair. Well, these guys, they were jungle fighters. They were they were hardened. Their skin was black because they spent all day in the sun,
Out in the sun.
and
Yeah.
you could see the Filipinos that were like road workers and truck drivers and stuff. Their skin was always darker than somebody who
Mhm.
worked in an office. So these guys had darkened skin because they were out in the sun all day, and I mean, they were not smiling. They were hardcore. Anyway, that's just kind of a thing about the Hookalopolis, and I don't know if they're still active in the Philippines or not. I know they had some problems down in Zamboanga, which is way down in the southern part of the Philippines. I got to know the Philippines pretty good. Had a
Hmm.
lot of friends who married to Filipino girls, and I spent some time over there.
Yeah.
And like we had one of our church people uh, was uh, was over there as a mission president in Cebu City, and he had this one lady in his mission. She had 7 children, and her husband had cancer.
Mm.
She was just a sweetheart. She was in the church, and she was really struggling, and so we started sending her money. We sent hundreds of dollars over there to the Philippines to support her. And last time we heard, all of her children were grown, gone to college. Some were nurses and engineers, what have you. And she's still alive. Every once in a while, we hear from her. So I got to know about Cebu City. It's a big city. It's a major
Oh,
metropolitan
yeah.
area. Yeah,
Yeah, I have some
and
friends from the Philippines
we got to
too,
know,
wonderful friends.
yeah,
I still do.
and I got to know about Manila. I've been to Manila in all of northern Luzon. I've been up into Baguio City, and so I know quite a bit about the Philippines. But
Alright, you're all over.
yeah, it's quite a place, and
I didn't know that you were
I just
so
been
familiar with the Philippines. I had no idea. I did not know that actually. And all my
yeah,
years of you
yeah,
being my dad,
yeah,
never knew that you had spent quite extensive visit to the Philippines. So that's pretty interesting.
yeah. For all the time I was in the Navy, I was in and out of the Western Pacific and in the Vietnam, Philippines, Okinawa. I know a lot about Okinawa too, and
Mhm.
Japan, uh, uh, Korea. Been into Korea, and beach jumpers were pretty much there. There weren't very many of us. There's only about 160 guys in the beach jumpers, but we were deployed
So when you
extensively,
first
and I don't think I really covered everything I wanted to cover being on board ship when I was on the Floyd County. Anyway, the Floyd County, I was in the Philippines for about a week,
okay.
and then the Floyd County pulled in. They informed me that my ship was in and I should report on board. So I went on board, and I was talking about it was an LST, and I had a crew of about 90 men.
Okay.
And when the Floyd County pulled into the Philippines, they had been gone. Now they were home ported in San Diego. They had been gone from San Diego for about 11 months. Okay. A normal deployment for a surface ship in the Navy to either the Mediterranean when you do a Met cruise or to Western Pacific was 10 months. So you would leave San Diego and 10 months later you pull back in. What happened to the Floyd County was they were put down into the Mekong Delta of
Mm.
southern Vietnam, and they were anchored out in the Mekong River, which the Mekong River was like a mile wide. It
Yeah.
was huge river, and they were near the shore, anchored out in the river, and they had these finger piers because off coming off each side of the ship, and they had accommodation ladders going up to the main deck on the ship, and they had patrol boats and they had swift boats, which were a little bigger than they had PBRs, which is patrol boat river, and the swift boats were a little bit bigger than the PBRs, but they would pull in, they would do their patrol in the river, then they would pull in next to the Floyd County and tie up, and then would come on board and they'd get a hot meal and they could sleep. They had a lot of beds on the Floyd County for attached units, Marines mainly. They were vacant because there was no Marines on board. So these crews of these boats could go down and sleep in a rack instead of sleeping on board the boat. And they could get their laundry done and they could have a hot meal and they could write letters home. And then the SEAL teams they were also deployed in that area. Some of them were on the PBRs and the Swifts, but most of them were just out in the jungle messing around, or they would be on some other types of boats. And the SEAL teams would come on board, or Army Green Berets would come on board, and the Army had small boats, and they would tie up and do the same thing. You get a shower and get a hot meal, and they did that for 10 months.
Wow.
Now you do the math, they were supposed to be back in San Diego, but they were anchored in the freaking river. Well, what happened was the Navy had 600 ships, and the LSTs were at the bottom of the pecking order. They were like you had battleships and aircraft carriers and heavy cruisers and just had this little dinky little LST sitting off in the river, and the Navy forgot about them. Seriously, they forgot about them. And the captain would send messages, "Hey, we're still here," and they say, "Oh, that's good, thanks." And
Oh my
and
gosh.
and these guys spent 10 months anchored in the Mekong Delta, and they were pissed. They were messed up. They had PTSD because they get shot at all the time,
Yeah.
and the Viet Cong would, always messing with them, and they'd lost several guys that had been picked off by snipers or fell in the river and drowned or,
Oh my goodness.
accidents on board ship. They were pretty burned out. They
Yeah.
got to the Philippines, and, they were nasty sailors. I'm telling you, they didn't wanna be anywhere. They wanted to be in San Diego with their wives and their children,
Yeah.
okay? So, anyway, had one kid named Jolo. He's a little Mexican kid from Texas. Really a nice kid.
Mhm.
And, we'd been there for a week. You usually put a week to 10 days in there. We were there for a couple days, and Jolo came in, and he put in a chit to get married. Now, in the military, in the Navy, I don't know about the rest of the service, in the Navy, to do anything, you have to put in a chit, which is just a little 5 by 7 piece of paper. They have it on a pad. They have like, a pad of 100 chits, and it had to be, you had to fill in your name, rank, serial number on the top, and then down the bottom, it had where your commanding officer and your chiefs and everything would sign off on this chit. And so you put in a chit to get married. You want to marry a Filipino girl.
Mm.
And, the Navy laughed at him. He said, "You're not marrying some Filipino whores. No way. Forget it, Jolo. Go back to work." And so I was standing quarterdeck watch, and It was like, probably about 9 o'clock at night, and, it was me and a petty officer, because I was just a seaman, and petty being a petty officer, standing quarterdeck watch, which is like the reception for on a ship. You have to go past the quarterdeck to get on board. You have to salute the flag and then salute the quarterdeck and then ask permission to come on board. And so I was standing quarterdeck watch, and I heard 2 gunshots. And the petty officer says, "Hey, Olson, run down here. That sound like it comes from the armory. Run down here and see what's going on." And so we were like, the quarterdeck was like probably about 100, no, probably about 70 feet from the end of the ship. And this ship was 350 feet long. So it was basically about 200 feet up across the main deck. And there was what they call a booby hatch, which is like a door out on the deck with a ladder going down. And there's a metal, like a slanted metal thing holding the door up.
Okay.
Call it a booby hatch. And I went up to down, and that's where the army was. Down, you go down through the booby hatch, and you get to the bottom of the ladder, and it was just off to the right side. And I got down there, and I got to the bottom of the ladder, and I went over to where the armory door was, and I looked in, and there was blood splattered up on these shelving and cabinetry, and there was Jolo
Yeah.
sitting in a stool with his head over to one side, and his brains were leaking out, and made a little pyramid on the floor.
Oh my gosh.
And and what he had done is he came back, and he'd stole 3 sets of keys. It was 3 sets of keys that was part of the security for the armory. You had to have a key
Wow.
to the door, have a key to the gun locker, and a key to the ammo locker. He stole 3 sets of keys and got in and opened the door, got the gun out, loaded it, fired 1 shot into the overhead, and then put the gun up to his head. And so
Mm.
I like, "Whoa!" and ran back up the ladder and told Jolo shot himself. He's dead. And then all hell broke loose, and pretty soon there was officers everywhere. And they called the base security, and it was just pandemonium, just total chaos.
My
And they
gosh.
just didn't have suicides every day,
Yeah, that was
And
rare.
so that was just one crewman of this ship who was so disgruntled and so messed up that he committed suicide. And then we had then down in downtown Olongapo, there was a bar called the Rose Bar, and it was kind of a hangout for the ships, for the crew. They would go there and have drinks and beers,
Mhm.
tell sea stories.
Oh,
These guys hanging around the Rose Bar, and the ship was leaving that day. We are getting underway about 10 o'clock, and these guys were not supposed to spend over. You had to put in a chip to spend overnight in the Philippines.
mm.
Okay, they had spent overnight in the Philippines in Longapo. They were supposed to come back to the ship about 8 o'clock so they get underway, and they were sitting there, and we're not going to get it. We're not going to go back. We're not going. We're no. I hate that ship. I hate everybody on board, and we're not going back. We're staying here in the Philippines.
Oh boy.
And so they sat there, and they knew the ship was getting underway. And I think that maybe one of our guys went out and talked to them. They knew the ship was getting underway at 10, and they just sat there. And they had muster. You always had muster at 8 o'clock. They weren't there. And they said, "Where are these 3 guys?" "Oh, well, they're out." "I don't know. I think they had overnight, didn't they?" "Yeah, they had overnight, and I don't know where they're at." They knew where they were at. They knew they were at the Rose Bar.
Oh boy.
And they
Oh
said,
boy.
so they said, okay, the captain says, okay, he went to the chief. He said, "Chief, if these men are not on board by what he said, like 9 o'clock or something," he says, "send the shore patrol out." And they had in the Philippines, in Olongapo or in Subic Bay, they had a police force on board the base, and they patrolled the base, and they also went out of the town, and they wore these little fiberglass helmets with an SP on the side, and they were shore patrol, but they
Okay.
were like cops. So they said, "Send the shore patrol out and pick these guys up if they're not back here by like 9 o'clock, because we got to get underway." And so 9 o'clock came, and they called the shore patrol and said, "Go to the Rose Bar and pick these guys up." And so by 10 o'clock, these three idiots were in this brig. They didn't bring back the ship. The ship was gone by then. They took them down, put them in the brig on Subic Bay, which is like just a regular lockup. And the ship got underway, and without these three guys on board. And we went when we left Subic. We went to Hong Kong. We went to Hong Kong, had a good time in Hong Kong. Then we pulled to Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, and it took us from the time these guys were picked up. It was probably 2 weeks before we got to Pearl Harbor. I know it's more than that. Probably more like 3 weeks before we
Wow.
got to Pearl Harbor. And then they flew from Subic to Pearl Harbor. And we pulled into Pearl Harbor. They came down the pier, head shaved, wearing these dungarees with PW on the back,
Oh
which
my
is
gosh.
prisoner work or something like. And
What
they
the heck?
came down the pier, had shore patrol all around them, marched them down the pier, it was, and everybody's standing there, because we just pulled in. We just pulled in. We hadn't dressed up for liberty or anything yet. Here comes these three
Was
clowns,
everyone like,
They,
ooh?
it's we'd been out there. We'd been to Hong Kong and everything, and they spent their time in the freaking brig. It was hilarious.
Jeez.
Anyway, let's see. I tell you what. Let's just keep on going on the Floyd County, okay?
Okay.
Because it was something else, and we spent about a week, 10 days in Subic, and got in away, and we went to Hong Kong, which Hong Kong is in the southern part of China. And back then, it was a British colony. It didn't become a. It didn't get its independence till 1999. That was when the British took it over in 1899. They got a 100-year lease on the colony,
Oh wow.
and
Okay.
so we pulled into Hong Kong. This would have been probably April or May. No, let's see. We'll go back. Yeah, it was probably May of 1966. We pulled into Hong Kong, and beautiful. I mean, big skyscrapers and huge harbor with boats going everywhere, and we couldn't tie up. There was no pier, or they wouldn't let us tie up. Or we anchored out, and we had Liberty launches, had small boats, some of our boats, and then there was other boats, civilian boats. They would take us into Hong Kong, and Hong Kong was an island. Victoria City, which was Hong Kong, was a whole colony, and Victoria was the main town, and that was on this island in the harbor. And we went into Hong Kong, and everybody speaking Chinese and scurrying about, and this guy approached me. I'm not real sure what it transpired. He ran a tailor shop in Hong Kong, and he said, "We make you nice clothes. You want come to our?" So, oh, okay, I'll go. So he went over and went up in his skyscraper, and I'm going, I don't want. Am I going to get murdered? Where am I
Oh
going?
my
Is just
god.
following this guy? And I
Yeah.
went up in his about the fifth or sixth floor of this skyscraper, and here's this freaking tailor shop. and went in there and they said, "Oh, you wanna make it? We make it for you." And I said, "I want a Beatles suit." They go, "What's a Beatles suit?"
What?
And so, uh, and so I told them what it was. I described it. I didn't have a picture or anything, but I said, "The Beatles. You know who the Beatles are?" "Oh, Beatle. Oh, yeah, number 1." And, "Ooh, you make a suit like a Beatle?" "Yeah, I make a suit like a Beatle." "Okay." And so the Beatles suits had, like a regular suit has a lapel. The Beatles suits just buttoned up here.
Yeah.
They just had and they had and then they had a contrasting uh, trim that went all around the collar and down the front and around the bottom, and it was tailored pretty good. It was pretty tight fitting suit, and it had tight fitting pants. And these Chinese, man, I mean, they measured me and they said, "Oh, we make you suit. You like it." And so I said, "Okay." And so they went and they said, "You come back tomorrow for a fitting." So he came back the next day, and they had already basically built a suit to my measurements. I mean, overnight. I was back there like 10 hours later and they're already done. And so they did the final stuff and they went ahead and then fitted it to my body perfectly. And it was made out of silk, like
Whoa.
shark skin. And it was beautiful. It was just like a real like an aqua blue with dark blue trim.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
I mean, knock your freaking socks off. And I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, this is even better than I thought it would be." And they said, "Oh, you like it?" I said, "Oh, I love it. This is wonderful. If I was here, I'd have 10 of these things made." And they charged me 40 Hong Kong dollars, which is $10 American
Whoa.
for that.
Amazing.
Yep.
What happened to the suit? We all want to know.
Okay, well, they wrapped it up for me, and because I couldn't wear it, and I had to wear a uniform because I was still on
Yeah.
board ship, and but they wrapped it up for me, and I took it back on the ship and put it in my locker, and then when I didn't wear it much while I was on active duty in the Navy because what are you gonna do? Nowhere to go. So I think I took it home, and I wore it. I don't think I ever wore the suit anywhere. I think I wore it and looked in the mirror and then put it back. But I wore the pants, the silk pants, until I wore them out.
Oh,
And
wow.
I love that suit. That was just gorgeous. We were anchored off Victoria, and these sampans came up alongside the ship, and I think I was quarterdeck watch that day, and these they showed up and they were girls and these sampans, and they said, "Oh, we painted you ship. We painted you ship. We'll work it out. What do you want?" And so I got the chief out there, chief bosun mate, because he's in charge of painting the ship. Got chief bosun mate out there, and he started talking to these girls, and they wanted to paint the ship, not the superstructure, but the hull of the ship, where
Ah.
the ship's numbers and everything. They wanted to paint that, and they would do it for your scrap food and any brass you had on board. So
Wow.
what we do is we put 3 trash cans out in the chow line. The first trash can was for fruit and vegetables, the second trash can was for meat, and the third one was for miscellaneous. And they would come by every day and pick up those 3 trash cans, and they would take them to restaurants, and they'd feed people with it, I guess. And then we had what they call papa boats, which were these small landing crafts that we had 2 of them on board, and we had a spare shaft and propellers for these landing craft, and they took those. They were all brass. They were a brass shaft or a bronze shaft and a bronze propeller, and
Mm.
that's all they wanted. They wanted those 2 pieces of brass and all of our garbage. And they came by and they took rags on sticks and they painted our hull. And it was beautiful.
Wow.
and they were in sampans, and Hong Kong Harbor, there was ships everywhere, boats, ships, and so there was constant ripples in the water, constant movement because there was all this wakes of all these ships,
Yeah.
constant, and they just painted away. They didn't care. Painted the whole hull for garbage and 2 pieces of brass.
Man.
And then they got all done, and we'd been in there about 4 days. The next day was about gonna be our last full day. And on that 5th day, these girls said, "Ooh, we have party. You come to Hong Kong Hilton." So, really? So, about 4 or 5 of us all got together, and we all went down to the Hong Kong Hilton, and they told us which floor. We went up to
Wow.
about the 7th floor or something, and went into this room, and they had a spread. I mean, they had food and drinks, and the girls had taken off their paint splattered clothes and put on these silk these you've seen these Chinese dresses,
Yeah.
the tall collars? They were gorgeous.
Ah,
And then these beautiful flowered Chinese dresses, and her hair was all made of on makeup with oh, man, they were beautiful women. I
wow.
said, "No, hey, what wait a minute. Now wait a minute. You're trying to tell me you painted my boat?" "Oh, yeah, we paint boats." "Wow."
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, I would have never guessed that you were the paint girls.
Yeah. Oh
And,
my god.
we had drinks and we ate, and, some of the guys actually went out with the girl.
Oh,
They left, and I said, "No, that's I'm going back to the boat, or I'm gonna go have a beer or something," and we left the hotel. Thanked them profusely, and and, uh, and of course, congratulated them for their good work. We said, "The ship looks wonderful, and, you look wonderful, and have a good life," and and, we went back and, left the hotel. And, yeah, that was really an eye opener for me. I didn't realize it was people who were that could do that type of work and then transform themselves
yeah.
into a complete different human being. And, yeah,
You
so
clean up
Hong Kong
good.
was really a trip. Yeah, it was amazing. And, oh, here's a sidebar.
Okay.
I don't think I went over this. Years later, I was stationed at Coast Guard Yard, and I was a warrant officer in the Coast Guard, and I was sitting around somewhere talking with a bunch of these other warrant officers at the yard. We got talking about prior service, and these guys, yeah, well, everybody was there with prior service, mostly Navy. I said, "Yeah, I was in the Navy." And when you're in a sailor in the Navy, and you talk to another sailor, the first thing you say is, "What ship are you on?"
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you do. And I said, "What ship are you on?" And he said, "I was on the Floyd County." And I said, "Wait a minute, LST 762, Floyd County, out of San Diego?" "Yes." I said, "When were you on there?" And he gives me these dates, and I said, "I was on there too. That same," and he said, "Well, I don't remember you." And I don't remember you because it was 90 guys, we're all both of us were boots. And he was like just out of boot camp, me too, A school, and and so he says, and I actually went and I found a bunch of my slides that I'd taken in Hong Kong, and I showed, and we got the projectors going, and I showed him my slides. He showed me his slides, and I said, "That
They're
is
identical.
unbelievable." I mean, like, 10 years later, 2 men in the Navy, and it was 600 ships in the Navy, 600,000 men in the Navy at that time, and 2
Wow.
men, both warrant officers, both stationed at the Coast Guard Yard, and both had served on the same little dinky boat in the Navy 15 years before that in
That's
Vietnam.
incredible.
They went to Hong Kong together.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
The
that's
odds.
incredible. That's
The odds.
1 in a million.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. How are we doing for time?
We're
All right.
about out of time.
Okay. Well, let's end it there, and just remember
Okay.
where we were at.
Sounds great. Okay. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining us today. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and please be safe out there, especially on the roadways. And we will see you next week.